Hello and welcome to Nerdarchy for Nerds by Nerds. I'm Nerdarchist Dave.
And I'm Nerdarchist Ted. Tonight we're cracking open the Unearthed Arcana Apocalyptic Subclasses from D&D 2025.
Unearthed Arcana, Apocalyptic Subclasses, Gladiator, Fighter, Blood for the Crown, Glory, Brutality, and the Price of Fame.
I really like this one from the outset. It super fits that concept of Dark Zone. So let's kind of get into it. Gladiator for the fighter, master brutality and blood and sport. Gladiators are just as much performers as they are warriors. Whether brawling in underground fighting rings or fighting for survival in bloodstained arenas, a gladiator combines martial skill with theatrics to awe and intimidate their audiences.
All right, so at level 3, Brutality. This is kind of like the cornerstone of the subclass. Shaped by the intensity of the arena, you've learned to execute brutal martial moves once per turn. When you hit a creature with an attack roll using a melee weapon, you can add one of the following brutality effects of your choice. You can do this a number of times equal to your charisma modifier, minimum of once, and you regain all your expended uses when you finish a short or long rest. Bleed. You can activate the SAP mastery property in addition to different mastery property you're using with that weapon. The target takes extra damage equal to your charisma modifier, minimum of 1 damage. The extra damage type is the same type as the weapon's type. Bluff. You can activate the Vex mastery property in addition to a different mastery property you're using with that weapon. And you have advantage on the next saving throw you make before the end of the next turn. Stumble. You can activate the topple mastery property in addition to a different mastery property you're using with that weapon. And on its next turn, the target can only take an action or a bonus action, not both. I like these, but my problem with this is the fact that your usage is based on your charisma modifier. Now, this is a problem for several of the different fighter subclasses. When they have to dip into that third stat, now it gets really hard because generally as a fighter, you need a good deck or a good strength and a good constitution.
Yep.
When you have to have also a good charisma or a good intelligence, it becomes worse. And at least with some of the other subclasses like Psy Warrior, it doesn't affect the number of uses. It just might affect how the modifier you get to add or the saving throw. But in this case, it's going to affect both. While, yes, it's kind of cool, like the charismatic fighter, but it means you're going to be taking from somewhere else in order to make this happen.
That was my point exactly. Now, I've dabbled around with looking at the weapon mastery. I'm not playing any martial classes in any of the games that I'm playing now. It is a scenario that I know some of these things stack up really nicely. When you start finding ways that you're allowed to use more than one, whoa, you can create some amazing combinations if you can line it up correctly. So to get this at early as level 3 that you can start stacking these things, it's nice. You have to be used.
I also like the fact that now you're getting more uses out of the masteries, right? And we kind of thought this would happen.
Right. But I completely agree with you. I look at fighters already need strength, dex, and constitution because especially in those low levels, you're not getting a plate mail. So therefore you kind of want that some kind of dex modifier just to start off with, unless like I'm just going dex and then I don't need strength. Then maybe this is designed for more of a dex con charisma build, but even still that needs three stats.
Yeah, I mean, you can get heavy armor right off the bat. This isn't really the subclass I'd be using that with, just saying.
It does make for a tough decision of how are you splitting your stats. Are you going to go for more even across the board? Or are you going to go for like a 27 point by dump wisdom and intelligence to just do this? Or are you going to be like, all right, I got all 1s and 2s. It's a tough decision that has to be made. But thematically, I love this. I love everything it's offering, but that does seriously bite. That's not all you get. Level 3, we're going to get combat theatrics. You've honed your combat skills to entertain devastating opponents and dazzling onlookers. You gain the following benefits. Athletic flair. Whenever you're making a dexterity, acrobatics, or strength athletics check, you can gain a bonus equal to your charisma modifier, minimum of +1, but you also gain a bonus proficiency. You get to choose between acrobatics, athletics, deception, intimidation, or performance.
So extra skill, great. Again, you're really going to want that charisma because now you're adding it to other things as well, making it more useful. But as we said before, you're spreading out your stats. And also that means you're not really going to have the availability to take feats if you wanted to.
Right, because you got to keep pumping up those stats.
Yeah. 7th level, you get Flourish, parry. You've learned established counter blows from your opponents. When an enemy hits you with a melee attack roll, you can take a reaction to add your charisma modifier minimum of +1 to your AC against the attack, potentially causing the attack to miss. Flourish counter. If the reaction causes the attack to miss, you can retaliate with a powerful counterattack as part of the same reaction. Make an attack roll with a melee weapon against the triggering creature. If this attack hits, you can use one of your brutality effects on the target without expending a use of that feature. Once the counterattack hits, you can't use this feature to make another counterattack until you finish a long rest. You can also restore your use of the counterattack by expending a use of second wind, no action required. So a couple things here, right? One, it gives you a use for reactions as a fighter. Mainly, you're going to be using those for your attacks of opportunity. In this case, you can try and turn a hit into a miss, and then you get to make another attack. You get a free use of your brutality. Oh, that's kind of cool. And also now we have another way to get our brutalities back by expending our second wind. I don't know that I would want to do that because second wind is pretty good.
This is really looking like charisma is your prime stat for this subclass, even though your core class doesn't care about charisma. You're getting the ability to gain abilities with it. You're getting the ability to increase your armor class. You're getting the ability to add it to your acrobatics and athletics rolls. I feel like, all right, there's a lot going on here. So you want to max out charisma, but that's not your bonus to hit or damage. So I feel like the way to fix this would be to be like, you can just attack with it, but they clearly missed that step.
Level 10, Boulder Brutalities. Your brutal martial prowess has powered the following effects and added your brutality options. You can activate the cleave mastery property in addition to a different mastery property you're using with that weapon, and you can add your ability modifier to the damage of the additional attack made as part of the property's activation. Rush, you can activate the push mastery property in addition to different mastery property you're using with that weapon, and you can immediately move up to your speed without provoking opportunity attacks. Stagger, you can activate the slow mastery property in addition to a different mastery property you're using with the weapon, and the target has disadvantage on the next saving throw it makes before the end of your next turn. So I will say one thing for the brutalities is they're really strong, right? Because you're getting that second mastery, which is pretty cool, especially if you really pick through and choose and start like synergizing which ones go together well. But in addition to that, you always get another ability on top of it, which is either some kind of buff for you or a debuff for that.
I think it's a very strong ability, which is why you're going to want that higher charisma to keep them being able to put those brutalities out there, because it's going to change the fight for you. But we're not done yet. Level 15, Brutal Resurgence. Whenever you use your second wind to regain hit points, you regain an expended use of your brutality. Also, you regain an expended use of brutality whenever you use your action surge. So you definitely want to be able to be tossing those things out. You got to wait to 15th level, but once you start using your action surge and your second wind, you're going to keep refilling your brutalities like nothing.
Short rest based for the most part. So once you do get to 15th level, that thing that was kind of problematic before isn't as nearly as much. And like, I guess like almost I'm thinking like when you start off, you're like 16 dex, 16 charisma, and like just get as high as a con as you can.
All right, let's finish this off. Level 18, Mutilate. When you hit a bloodied creature with an attack roll, you can attempt to critically injure it. The target makes a Constitution saving throw, DC 8 plus your charisma modifier and proficiency bonus. On a failed save, the target suffers the following effects. Maimed. If the target takes the attack action, it can make only one attack. Sluggish. If the target's speed is halved, it has a -2 penalty to its armor class. These effects last until the target regains hit points. Once the target fails its saving throw against this feature, you can't use it again until you finish a long rest.
Now, I mean, imagine using Maimed against the dragon. You're like, nope, just one attack. Now, granted, they're not going to, the chances of them failing that con save and the fact that they have legendary actions, probably not going to happen, but it just amuses me to kind of think about it.
It's really nice. Again, I dig this subclass. It's just that extra stat that you need that's going to affect what's going on with it.
That is facts, my friend. What kind of character would you build for a dying world? Are they trying to save it or just survive it? Let us know in the comments. But until next time, stay nerdy.
Stay nerdy.